Hi, my name is Brody Honeycutt, and I will be interviewing my mom, Danette Honeycutt. A story that could have ended much worse than it did. Mom, what happened the summer of 1992?
Well, in 1992, I was still in college, and I was married to Coach Honeycutt. So I was very young. I was very petite. I was probably 5'3", maybe 106 pounds, soaking wet. And I had a summer job at Alberta Baptist Summer Day Camp. It was a Friday afternoon, and it was a hot Friday afternoon. One of those days where you walk outside and you just can't breathe, and you just get a sweat right when you walk outside. So it was time for me to get off, and I was going to my parents. My parents weren't home. They were eating with some friends. So I was going to an empty house to lay in her tanning bed. And on the route from Alberta to Colon, I got this eerie feeling that I was being followed.
So, Mom, what made you think you were being followed?
Well, the route from Alberta to Colon is about the only way that you could get to my house, and you become familiar with the automobiles that travel that road. And every time I would glance in my rearview mirror, I would notice a lowrider truck with illegally tinted windows, which means that they were extremely dark to the point that you couldn't see in them. And every time I made a turn, this truck made a turn. So I just had this gut instinct that something wasn't right.
All right, Mom, so when you pulled into the carport, what exactly happened?
Well, before I pulled into the carport, I traveled Highway 11, and then I had to turn into our neighborhood, and, this truck continued to follow me in there, and then I pulled in, and I was like, well, maybe they're going someplace else. So then I crossed the railroad tracks, and I was like, okay, if they follow me up this dirt road to my house, then I know they're following me. So sure enough, I turned up the dirt road, turned into my parents' driveway, and pulled into the carport. Well, when I pulled into the carport, this truck blocked me in. And I sat in my car for a minute and didn't know what to do because I was blocked in. I knew the house was locked, and I had to get out quickly and go to the grill where they had hidden the keys to get the keys to get in. So I decided to make a run for it. I ran, and I got the keys out of the grill. And the whole time, my hand was shaking so bad, I could barely get the key into the lock to get into the house.
So, Mom, what happened when you got in the house?
Well, before I got into the house, as I was unlocking the door, I looked and I saw this man who was an African-American male. He was about 6'5", maybe 300 pounds. Remember, it was the hottest day of the summer. He was in black pants, a black shirt, a long black leather trench coat, black cowboy boots, and he had black curly hair. So as I was unlocking the door, I see this man coming at a very petite teenage girl. So I get into the house, I lock the door, I lock the glass door, and then I locked the front door. And by the time I do that, he's on my steps looking at me through the window. And I just yell at him, what do you want? And he just stared at me. And I don't know why, but I opened the door.
What did you do next?
When I opened the door, I said, what do you want? And he said, with the most evil eyes I've ever seen, let me come in and just get a glass of water and then I'll leave. And as soon as he said that, I just had chills run up and down my arms, and I became even more terrified. So I slammed the door, I deadbolted it, and then I ran to the furthest part of the house, hid beside my parents' bed, and for some reason I called my best friend, who lived about 7 minutes from me.
So what was he doing while you were on the phone with her?
Well, when I called her, she was like, you need to hang up and call the police. And I'll come over there. And she rode up and down the driveway just to make sure everything was okay. And then I called the police, and they stayed on the phone with me until someone got there. But the whole time that I'm in the very back bedroom, I can hear him beating and pounding on the door and screaming to just let him in. And there were moments where it would get really loud, and then he would quit. So when he would quit, I would kind of walk in the hall to see if I could see him, and sure enough, he was still there. And when he could, after a few minutes, he would start pounding and just screaming again, wanting in. So it seemed like forever that all of this took place, but in reality, it was probably only 15 or 20 minutes.
So what happened when the police got there after you called them?
When the police got there, they immediately went to him and took him out of the carport to his truck. And when they went to his truck, they found drug paraphernalia and alcohol. And one police officer left him at the truck, stayed with him at the truck. And another one came in to check on me. And by this time, my best friend had called my parents, who were eating supper with some friends at a restaurant where Crunch is now. So by this time, they had gotten home, and the police officer was talking to me. Of course, I'm shaking uncontrollably. I can't calm down. Nobody can calm me down. And the police are trying to explain to me that, I did the right thing. Had I let him in, it would have been a much different story. Some really bad things probably could have happened. And they just explained that, he was on drugs, alcohol mixed together. He had no idea what he was doing or where he was. And he just ended up following a teenage girl.
So, Mom, did you ever see him again after this incident?
He was actually arrested. The only thing that they could get him for, after terrifying me, was trespassing, because my parents did have no trespassing signs up. We actually had a court date. We had to go to court, and of course that day was probably the second scariest day of my life, because I knew I was going to have to see him again in court and testify of, everything that happened. But he was a no-show. So because he did not show up for court, he then had a warrant out for his arrest.
Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you, Mom.
You're very welcome.
Glad it did not end up worse.
Me too. May not have had you. You'll have to erase that.